sharp. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much, Taoiseach. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be here tonight, and thank you very much for the very warm welcome. And I can reply exactly to the same three topics you choose, because indeed this is what we're going to discuss tonight, and other things. I'm looking forward to the dinner, so there we will have a broader conversation too. But first of all, I want to elaborate a bit on the Brexit topic indeed. It's going to be in 2 weeks now that the United Kingdom will leave the European Union, and as we could hear from your words, there's almost no other country in the European Union that is more affected by this decision than Ireland. And that is the reason why Ireland and Northern Ireland were one of our top priorities during the withdrawal negotiations. As you've mentioned, we've said we do not want a hard border. We delivered that it will not be a hard border. We've said that Ireland will stay at the heart of the European Union, and so it is now. So I think the withdrawal negotiations and the withdrawal agreement were very successful, what Ireland and the island of Ireland is concerned. And it has been, or is in the process of being ratified now on the UK side, and the European Parliament will ratify it at the end of the month. The European Union has negotiated respectfully, fairly, because we wanted an orderly exit. For us, was and is very important to protect citizens' rights. There are 3.5 million European Union citizens working and living in the United Kingdom, and vice versa, around about 1 million UK citizens working and living in the European Union. It is very good that we have in the agreement the reassurance that those people can live and work till the end of their life in the respective part, either the United Kingdom or the member state of the European Union they are in right now. This was very important, and of course one of the top priorities was to ensure peace and stability on the island. Now we have with the withdrawal agreement legal certainty, and I must say I've listened a lot to the negotiation team. I've listened a lot, of course, to all the stories and anecdotes, but also details Michel Barnier told me. And one thing is for me clear: it would not have been possible to reach this agreement without the very hard work, the patience, and the unity of everybody here in Ireland. So you referred to that, and it's the same experience on the side of the European Commission. Without the work of the government, without the work of the politicians in the parliament, the civil service, the whole country coming together, this would not have been possible. And therefore, Leo, thank you a lot for your leadership and the cooperation. That was excellent, and I think we see now the results. They are excellent too. We do have quite a lot of work ahead of us. The protocol on Ireland and Northern Ireland now needs to be implemented, and I say very clearly that we will watch over the implementation very closely. And of course, the Northern Ireland institutions have a crucial democratic role to play. As you've said, we're very happy about the recent agreement on restoring power sharing in Northern Ireland. Now we enter a new phase of negotiations. We are going to be ambitious, and we want to have a very close partnership with our British friends. We are neighbors. We share a lot of experience, 45 years of experience together. We share a common history. We share the geography, and we will share our common destiny. So we are looking forward to these negotiations, and we're looking forward, thank you very much for saying that you will show the same level of engagement and support in this new phase of negotiation. Indeed, last week I've been to London too, and saw Boris Johnson, and I think we are in a very good spirit to go as fast as possible, to work as hard as possible, day and night, to move forward quickly. There's a lot in it is UK's choice, because the United Kingdom knows The closer they want to be to the single market, the more, of course, they have to align to the rules of the single market. The less they want to abide to the rules of the single market, the more distant they will be, the more difficult it will be to have access. So I think this is now the time to figure out the room that we will have between the UK and the European Union's single market. It's mainly their choice, but with every choice comes a trade-off, and that was what we discussed last week. On the budget, the European Union needs a fair budget, a balanced budget, and a modernized budget. If we kind of look back to the time when the budget we have right now, we finish right now, has been agreed on. It was in 2013. At that time, there was no annexation of Crimea. The word Daesh was not present at all in our areas. There was no Paris Climate Agreement. We were not talking about 5G or artificial intelligence. So we need to modernize the budget we will have now for the next 7 years, because there's a lot coming ahead of us, and therefore we count on you for this part. I think we also will have to think intensively about new own resources. We've been discussing that, but I'm positive that now that President Michel, together with the Croatian presidency, have taken on that task, that we will move forward. The European Green Deal. Indeed, climate change is one of the biggest challenges we do have. Today, the World Economic Forum published the yearly global risk report. Davos coming up next week, and interestingly, they defined the 5 biggest risks for our economy, all related to climate. And we know we have to act, so thank you very much, Leo, for putting forward a very ambitious climate action plan. We share the same goal, climate neutrality 2050. Thank you very much for the support last time in the European Council, for having the whole European Council backing the goal of climate neutrality in 2050. But more important is, and I listened carefully to you, that we both share the same conviction that, yes, on one hand, there is the risk, of course, of global warming. But on the other hand, there is a huge economic opportunity in it for the European Union, because we are front runner right now. We are the ones who are the most ambitious. We do have to act. And if the rest of the world will come along, I want the European Union to be the one who is the exporter of knowledge, of procedures, of standards, of new technologies, of green financing. So therefore, not only for the planet, but also because we know this is an enormous opportunity for the European Union in the future, and it's going to be the topic for the globe. We're pushing so hard to move forward. And indeed, as you said, there will be transition, and if we do not want to leave anyone behind, we need to make sure that it is a just transition. And therefore, yesterday we presented not only the European Green Deal investment plan, but also the Just Transition Fund. And indeed, it is targeted to specific regions, for example, the Irish Midlands, indeed, with the peat production there. So we are very well aware that this is the function of the European Union. If we move forward in this big topic, we have to support, we have to assist. And therefore, yesterday we presented these funds. Finally, thank you so much again for having me here. I'm looking forward to our talks, and it's good to be here. Thank you.
President Taoiseach, we have a short opportunity for questions. Because time is quite limited, if we could stick to the topics related to the European Union, please. We're going to kick off with Mary reading from RT.
President, this is a question for you. The British Prime Minister has seemed reluctant, both throughout his election campaign and more recently, to accept that the withdrawal agreement necessitates checks going from the rest of the UK to Northern Ireland, that is across the Irish Sea. Can you remove any uncertainty about that now? And also a key message of this government is that we're half time now in these Brexit negotiations, and also that it's not a time to change the team. Would you accept that a change in government here would change the standing of Ireland or the attitude to Ireland in the remainder of Brexit talks?
There is a golden rule in the European Union, never ever to comment any domestic politics. So, of course, this goes for me too. And if I understood you right, you were talking about the border controls in the Irish Sea. So the United Kingdom will do the controls, but of course supervised by the European Union. And as it's written down with the ratification, it's going to be a law. We all abide to the law. We will make sure that the rules are being followed clearly.
Next question is to Varadkar from Reuters.
It's also a question for the President. Both you, the Taoiseach, and other EU leaders have cast, I think, serious doubt on the timetable for the future trade talks. If negotiations...
I didn't get the first half.
You have cast doubt on the timetable for the trade talks in Brexit. If progress is slow in the coming months, could you envisage the EU asking Britain to extend that timeline, or is it completely exclusively up to Britain to seek an extension?
There is only one of the two who can ask for an extension, and that is the United Kingdom. We'll see mid-year where we're at and what the United Kingdom decides on. And as I've said, we're well set with the largest single market in the world. So it's UK's choice that does not only go for the question of a level playing field and then access to the single market, but this goes also for the question of an extension.
Next question is to Jennifer Brilliant, the Irish Times.
Taoiseach, just in relation to the homeless man who was critically injured this morning in Dublin, the Lord Mayor of Dublin, Paul McAuliffe, has responded to your request that he make a comment, and he says that you're playing political games. He suggested that. Are you playing political games, and why did you respond in that way?
Well, my initial response will be the same as it is now, and that is to express concern and sympathy with the man who was injured today. I think it's essential that an investigation be carried out as to what happened, because we don't really know for sure how this happened, and I understand that investigation is now being carried out, and I hope that he makes a very speedy recovery. From what we're told from DRHE, Dublin City Council and Waterways Ireland, is that he had been offered accommodation and that the tents are always checked, but obviously something went terribly wrong here. We have to make sure that we find out what went wrong and who was responsible, if anyone was responsible, and then obviously to make sure that that offer of accommodation is still open whenever he's discharged from hospital and is recovered. In terms of what the Lord Mayor has to say, I've never sought to make homelessness a party political issue. It's a very complicated social issue that every country struggles with. I've never sought to make it a party political issue, and I think, if anything, we've been on the receiving end of that rather than the perpetrators of it.
Next question is to Joe Stenson from AFP.
Yeah, a question for the President, if I may. I was wondering if you could give us an idea as to the timetable for trade talks, which issues will be on the agenda first, and whether we might be looking at a series of partial agreements as opposed to one overarching accord.
There's a golden rule too. All is negotiated when all is negotiated. So we have a wide agenda. And therefore, we will start negotiating the moment the mandate is there in parallel different topics. But if we look at the timetable, net we do have around 8 months, because the negotiation talks will start end of February, beginning of March. And you need at the very end of the year 1 or 2 months at least for the ratification process. So therefore, we will go in parallel. And as I said, it's not only trade. There are a lot of other topics too that have to be negotiated. Just if you think of the security topic, for example, or research, innovation, the universities, Erasmus, you just mentioned a few things. So the strands will go in parallel. The chief organizer is Michel Barnier. but he's accompanied by the respective commissioners or vice presidents and their directorate generals. So we have a plan, but we have to work very, very hard to reach that goal.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all we have time for.
Thank you.
Thank you.